The top story. The Indian Embassy in Turkey has confirmed the first Indian casualty in the horrific quakes that hit Turkey last Monday. The body of an Indian man missing since the 6th of February, since that earthquake hit Turkey, was pulled out from under the rubble of a hotel where he was staying. The man, Vijay Kumar from the hill state of Uttarakhand, was working for a Bengaluru-based company. He was on a business trip to Turkey, says the embassy. His body was pulled out from under the rubble of a hotel in Malatya. That's a region that was severely hit by the devastating earthquake. First, a 7.8 magnitude earthquake rocked Turkey and Syria on Monday, flattening thousands.
It's an extremely unfortunate news, but the government just a short while back confirmed to us that the first Indian national casualty is confirmed now in the Turkey earthquake. And to coming back to your question, Sarah, that how the embassy confirmed that this body is indeed of Vijay Kumar. Rescuers who were on the spot, who recovered the body of Vijay Kumar, sent pictures, and I'm extremely sorry to say these words can be triggering for a lot of viewers, so viewer discretion is advised, but his crushed body was recovered from under the debris of a 4-star hotel, and pictures were taken by the rescuers, and those pictures were sent to his family in Pauri Garhwal in Uttarakhand. Now the family identified the body of Vijay Kumar by a tattoo which was there on Kumar's left arm, and that is how the body was identified. As soon as the family gave nod and confirmed that it is indeed Vijay Kumar's body, the rescuers immediately informed the Turkey ambassador and the Turkey government. And in fact, right now, Sarah, we have just spoken to the Indian ambassador to Turkey, and he's confirmed that the process to...
You're watching NDTV, you're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Sarah Jacob. Let's get you the day's top headlines. The first Indian casualty in the Turkish quake. The body of a missing Indian man is found under a destroyed hotel in Turkey. Vijay Kumar from Uttarakhand was working for a Bengaluru-based company and was on a business trip to Turkey. The Indian embassy says arrangements are being made to bring the body back to India. 6 days on, hopes to find anyone else alive from under the rubble are dim. Rescue and relief teams race against time to find life. Operations have to take place in pin-drop silence as rescuers train to hear the fading cries for help. The Turkey and Syria quake deaths top 25,000 as rescuers work in freezing weather against all odds. Miraculous survival stories coincide with hasty mass burials. Back home with the assembly polls around the corner, Prime Minister Modi rolls out twin rallies in Tripura, hits out of the Congress left alliance. The tiny but politically crucial state of Tripura is going to face elections on the 16th of February. In a setback for the Aam Aadmi Party, Delhi's LG removes 2 nominees backed by it from the boards of private power distribution companies. AAP calls the order unconstitutional, illegal, adds that only an elected government has the power to issue orders on electricity. And India make a big statement by winning the now protest by an innings in 132 runs. Australia lose 10 wickets in a session, bowled out for 91 runs. India take a 1-0 lead in the 4th. For a Bengaluru-based company, he was on. His body was pulled out from under the. That's a region that was severely hit by the devastating earthquake. First, a 7.8 magnitude earthquake rocked Turkey and Syria on Monday, flattening thousands of structures, trapping an unknown number of people and potentially impacting millions. The death count right now stands at 25,000 and it is expected to rise further. Let's go across first to my colleague Tanushri Pandey, who is on the ground there. Tanushri, as you were reporting today, that news came in, that confirmation from the embassy, the first Indian casualty in this horrific natural disaster. How exactly has the embassy identified or confirmed that this is Vijay Kumar, who was missing and a search was on for him?
It's an extremely unfortunate news, but the government just a short while back confirmed to us that the first Indian national casualty is confirmed now in the Turkey earthquake. And to coming back to your question, Sarah, that how the embassy confirmed that this body is indeed of Vijay Kumar. Rescuers who were on the spot, who recovered the body of Vijay Kumar, sent pictures, and I'm extremely sorry to say these words can be triggering for a lot of viewers, so viewer discretion is advised, but his crushed body was recovered from under the debris of a 4-star hotel, and pictures were taken by the rescuers, and those pictures were sent to his family in Pauri Garhwal in Uttarakhand. Now the family identified the body of Vijay Kumar by a tattoo which was there on Kumar's left arm, and that is how the body was identified. As soon as the family gave nod and confirmed that it is indeed Vijay Kumar's body, the rescuers immediately informed the Turkey ambassador and the Turkey government. And in fact, right now, Sarah, we have just spoken to the Indian ambassador to Turkey, and he's confirmed that the process to send the mortal remains, the entire building completely collapsed. Now it's been more than 4 days, and the family informed the government that his son went to Turkey, and now his number is not reachable, and in fact he is missing. And that's when the Indian government immediately informed the Turkish government, and the search was on. Yesterday we spoke to the ambassador, and he confirmed that there were no casualties of any Indian national. Today, this morning, Vijay Kumar's documents were recovered from the rubble, from the debris of the 4-star hotel, and just a short while back, an hour back almost, his body was recovered from the debris where he was trapped for the last 5 days. Sarah, it's the 6th day of the rescue operation, and with each passing second, the chances of rescuing people alive is getting slimmer. I'm right now in the Indian Army hospital, which has been set up in Iskenderun in Hatay province, which is one of the worst affected regions in Turkey. And you can see right behind me that all efforts are being made by our men in uniform to save as many lives as possible. In fact, they are not even taking anybody to any kind of operation theater. They are doing surgeries, conducting surgeries on people wherever they can find space in this building, which has now been turned into an Indian Army hospital. And that's why that's how they are saving as many lives. Leg amputation surgery was conducted successfully on a man who was under the debris of a multi-storied building for more than 4 days. And I can show you the efforts being made by the Indian Army, and of course other countries have also stepped up their aid to Turkey. Let's really hope that more people can be saved, but it's honestly, the harsh reality on the ground is that it's a race against time. And now after 6 days, the rescuers on the ground are telling us that all they expect to find are the dead bodies, because it's next to impossible for anyone to be alive under the debris and rubble of huge buildings without food and water for more than 5 days. Back to you.
And Tanushree, let me just ask you, there are other Indians, of course, in Turkey, I think maybe about 3,000. We have the first casualty, the tremors, the reverberations from the tremors have reached Indian shores. We have our first confirmation of an Indian death. But what about the others? Do we expect this to end here? Is everybody else, all the other Indians who are supposed to be in Turkey, have they been accounted for?
Well, we spoke to the Indian ambassador to Turkey just a short while back, and he confirmed to us that there have been no such missing reports of any Indian national being in Turkey at the time of the earthquake. There was one person who was unaccounted for, who was missing according to his family, and his dead body was recovered today from under the rubble of a hotel, of a 4-star hotel where he was staying. He came in here for a project, but other than him, as of now, the Indian government has confirmed that as of now there is no other Indian national who is in Turkey or in Syria at the time of the earthquake. So no.
Set up by Indian from India and landed in Turkey to help with the rescue and relief operations on the ground there. So in the midst of all of this, in the midst of this global rescue effort, where does India's assistance stand? What is the significance of this? Joining us now, former Indian ambassador to Turkey, former Indian foreign secretary. We have Monica Verma, strategic affairs expert, and Dr. Zakir Hussain, former research fellow, the Indian Council of World Affairs, a foreign policy expert, joining us on left, right and centre. Mr. Sibal, to you first. India's assistance to Turkey, it comes at a critical time. It comes at a time where we've seen our ties face some bumps, especially over Turkish statements on Kashmir. Could this be the reset one needed in Indo-Turkish bilateral ties?
Well, it may help, but I would not count on that. Turkey has a very versatile kind of foreign policy, but focused essentially on their own national interests, and there are many contradictions in this. You know, Turkey is a member of NATO, but they bought the S-400s from Russia, and they did not allow in the past America to use the Incirlik base for their aid action against Iraq, and they remain members of NATO. Then they blackmailed the European Union that if they didn't get a couple of $1 billion of aid, they will let loose the refugees who are in Turkey from the Middle East, from West Asia, to enter Europe and create problems for them. Now, as you know, being members of NATO, they are blocking the entry of Sweden into NATO. They are members of NATO, but they are quarreling with Greece, which is also a member of NATO. But more importantly, they have excellent, very good relations with Russia. But they shot down a Russian plane over Syria. And they supplied drones to Ukraine. And yet they mediated between Russia and Ukraine for the supply of food grains. So what I mean is that Turkey, from the Turkish point of view, has a very successful foreign policy where they can manage contradictions. And if you extrapolate this, they'll manage the contradiction between their support for Pakistan on the Islamic network or an Islamic basis, as well as try and have good relations with India. And we should be prepared for this. I think we should look at our humanitarian aid to Turkey as a response of a responsible country, which prides itself on the fact that in case of a humanitarian disaster, it is frequently the first responder. Okay, it's easy to be first responder in our larger in our region, but to be also virtually the first responder in some senses, even in Turkey, I think is a great achievement. And it will add to our colors when we are presiding over the G20 as a responsible power, which takes into account seriously its international obligations. And whenever there is a humanitarian disaster, it has the capacity and the will come to the assistance of other countries.
So it is befitting of a country that is going to host the G20 this year in a few months from now. All right. But Monica Verma, I want to again push a little more on this. What is at stake here? We have Ambassador Sybil saying that, Turkish foreign policy is unpredictable. They manage, to balance all these contradictions. But from India's point of view, is there an urgency? There is an urgency to reset ties, to have an open channel of communication, isn't there? With Ankara set to play a major role in Afghanistan, with, Turkish relations with China, the loans deals that have been signed with China. Given all of that, it is imperative for India to try and reset open channels of communication.
Well, Sara, the way I look at it, I find no urgency at all, especially because, you have to look at the actual capability. Turkey is an important country. We have a multi-aligned foreign policy in today's date. We are trying to port as many different actors as we can across all theaters. All that said, I totally agree with what Sibalji said, that, Turkey is a very, very curious case of having a contradictory foreign policy. And with that sort of a foreign policy, while India is helping out Turkey, and we have launched the Operation Dost, and in fact, in September 2022 as well, there was a meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Erdogan. But besides, all these niceties and all these, gestures, one truth which is not going to change is that Turkey is a part of the Islamic axis, which is not only, anti-India, but it is also anti-Indian national interest. So, we try to do something with our own national interest. When the revocation of Article 370 took place, one of the most vocal actors was Turkey. And truth be told, while all this, help was being extended to Turkey, they just concluded a military exercise with Pakistan. I think it concluded 2 days ago, if I'm not wrong. So, we can't really look much into it. We can't really read much into it. Truth be told, it's good. It's a very nice gesture on India's part, but it has more to do with India's own, principle of being the first responder. We have been trying to hold on to this principle from a very long time. especially since 2014, if you look at the different evacuation exercises that we've done, how we have been helping countries in our own neighborhood with fresh water. We helped Maldives. We also extended a rice donation to Madagascar. So I think not just in Indian Ocean, but also more specifically in India's immediate neighborhood of South Asia, India is holding on to the principle of first responder. All these images of Indian Army and, Indian government helping the people of Turkey through Operation Dost will definitely create some sort of goodwill. And in fact, not just some sort of goodwill, I can already see, if you trace social media, people of Turkey, they have been very, kind, and they've been very nice to recognize this, acknowledge this. But would that lead some sort of change in the elite thinking? Would that lead some sort of change at the bigger level? I am very skeptic about it.
Well, talking about change at the bigger level, this goes back to what Ambassador Sybil was talking about, Turkish foreign policy being contradictory, being one that is able to balance all of these contradictions. Dr. Zakir Hussain, what could the domestic fallout of this be? Because when you have a natural disaster of this scale, there is usually a fallout and a reverberation. The Turkish President Erdogan has conceded for the first time that his government has not been able to reach and help victims as quickly as desired, and this is an election year.
Look, I want to give 2 points on previous questions. Diplomacy is not a one-time game. It is a continuous and sustained effort to improve the relation, number one. Number second, Turkish are also human being. They would be looking India's efforts selflessly, despite knowing all drawbacks in the bilateral relations. So our policy to people, improving people-to-people ties will be very excellent, and this is the beginning. And I expect that Indian government should improve further it, and we bring the people of the two countries together. So that may affect the government, and so the Erdogan government, if it does not win the election, the next government would like to improve relation with India, and it is very much on the card that if Erdogan goes, then a liberal government, a more accommodative government is likely to come, and this will improve our relation with Turkey and with Turkish people. And our historical relation is very deep, and cultural exchanges are also very deep and very fruitful. And now coming to your question, that it's not possible for any government to provide relief to such a massive and all of a sudden disaster. But looking the shaky position of Erdogan, this may add fuel to his decline. So, because right now, what I feel that people are, especially the middle class, Western-oriented people are not satisfied with the Erdogan government. But again, Erdogan has a very large backing in rural areas, in mid cities, among the some tigers, like they are called. So what I feel that it is too early to say that people will turn against Erdogan. Erdogan is also a shrewd player, and he will try to cash in. And already he has given one statement which is circulating on WhatsApp, in which he has given the reference of Islam and Quran, that this happens, and we are in a crisis period. We will manage the situation. It is not only impressing the Turkish people, but other Muslims are also being impressed by his statement. All this, if you have seen that, you may understand the balancing act of Erdogan.
Balancing act of Erdogan. Ambassador Kamal, let me ask you, again, the balancing act, talking about balancing acts, isn't India also having to play a balancing act in a sense? Because we know that despite Turkish comments on internal Indian affairs, which are very unwelcome, Turkey is going to play a big role in the Afghan peace talks. Turkey has direct and deep contacts with the Taliban, and the US administration, the Biden administration recognizes that fact, and they're willing to work with it, or they're willing to utilize it.
Well, I'm not too sure about that. I think in Afghanistan, it is Qatar which is a much more important player. And when the United States needed help with the Taliban, they didn't go to Turkey. They went to Qatar. So that is one. The other is that there are a lot of difficulties, political difficulties between the United States and Turkey because of Turkish policies vis-a-vis Greece in the Mediterranean, etc. Plus, of course, vis-a-vis Russia. And now the whole question of expansion of NATO, which was strongly by including Sweden and Norway, and Sweden and Finland, which United States fully backed, but Turkey has put a spanner in the works. The Americans have knocked Turkey out of the F-35 program because of they having purchased S-400, and Turkey is still determined to expand relations with Russia for purely pragmatic reasons, because Turkish economy is in trouble. And the number of Russian tourists that go to Turkey are huge in numbers. Yeah. And Russia has offered to make Turkey a gas hub for supply of gas, Russian gas to Southern Europe. If that project reaches fruition, it will give Turkey a very pivotal position. Russia also needs Turkey for managing the situation in the Northern Caucasus, where Russia has trouble and where there is terrorism and Islamism and extremism and everything else. Turkey is a very potent player in this region. But let me say something else, which is when I was ambassador to Turkey, that was about the best phase in our relationship when Özal was the president. Turkey reached out to us in a big way. And I must say that my memories of Turkey in the political sense of that period are very positive. They were friendly towards us. They were sensitive to our Kashmir situation. I will not go into details of how they actually helped us and warded off Pakistan pressure to speak up against India on Kashmir. But with Erdogan, unnecessarily, he has raised the Kashmir issue, the only other country to raise the Kashmir issue in the UN General Assembly. For us, Turkey nevertheless remains important because it's a very critical player in the Islamic world, in the region as a whole. Now with the Azerbaijan-Armenia issue coming up, and we have very good relations with Armenia, we have an issue there. Iran-Turkey relationship have their own dynamism, and we have an interest in following them and following up on them. And of course, Afghanistan did play an important role in the Heart of Asia project.
Ambassador Sibal, what about the China factor?
China, well, Turkey, look, this is the hypocrisy of Erdogan. He presents himself as an Islamist. He began a few years ago by raising the Uyghur issue, and now he's silent.
Yeah.
Because he needs financial aid from China, investment from China, because his economy is in trouble. So, even his Islamism is sort of, very flexible, very flexible in terms of where their interests lie. So he's a very, in a sense, a very artful player, very centered on Turkey's national interests. And he has ambitions to recreate the Ottoman Empire of some sorts and take the leadership of the Islamic world. Don't forget that Turkey, Pakistan, and Malaysia have developed an axis against Saudi Arabia and the Gulf countries in terms of who is going to be the leader of the Islamic world. So there are many complicated dimensions, but I'll end by saying what we've done is a very good gesture. It's an investment in the future. It may be helpful. Turkey will be constantly reminded that in the hour of need, we came forward despite all the reservations we have about Turkey. And at the people level, Zakir, one of the panelists, is right in saying that the Turkish people are friendly towards us. I've experienced that myself.
Yeah.
No, but now with the change of government and the watering down and dilution of secularism in Turkey, which is very visible. In my time, it was genuinely a secular country. But now under Erdogan is no longer. And we have an issue with that because we have our own concerns about the rise of Islamic radicalism and extremism.
Yes. All right, I think it was Monica Verma who also mentioned, Monica, you were saying that, you can see on social media Turkish people are grateful. But I want to ask you, yes, of course, India has everything to gain from helping a country in times of need. It's only reflective of our stature as the host of G20 this year, etc., etc. But are there lessons to be learned from making sure such goodwill is done discreetly, given what we saw with Nepal and how it affected, sovereign pride?
I don't get the part about being discreetly about it, and I don't also agree with what happened in Nepal. Coincidentally, my research is focused on Nepal, and so I happen to visit Kathmandu. And what we see on ground is very different from how we look at it from TV channels in India. We often talk about Nepal and we say things like, China is making fast inroads, and the people of Nepal, they have problems with India, and especially the blockade issue and all. But, as far as I understand it, I think any sort of goodwill is always welcome, and we must always publicize it through the actions such as whether it's evacuation or the HADR, the humanitarian assistance and disaster relief operations. Because ultimately, these images, that we leave behind, this imprint on people's psyche is always very helpful. So, even while I was traveling to Nepal and I spoke to a couple of people, all of them said the same thing, that, it's easier to identify with what India says and India does, but to identify with what Chinese think and to identify with what Chinese think is very, very difficult. So they still have this roti and beti, relationship very much alive in their mind. So I think on ground situation is very different.
All right. Thank you so much, Ambassador Sybil, Monica Verma, Dr. Zakir Hussain. Thank you all for joining us as we try and look into the future and see the fallout of India's assistance. Could it be a diplomatic game changer? Thank you for joining us on Left, Right and Centre.